Hey residents of MeepleTown, today we are going to be looking at the different factions from Imperial Settlers. Now I'm going to be trying to do some different videos in this realm of Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North, 51st State. Some games that I really absolutely love, and there's a lot of content for them. And so what I want to do is kind of highlight some of the things from the different from these different games. Now, Imperial Settlers, I'm going to be looking at the 7 factions that are available, the 4 from the base game and then the 3 expansion factions. And just know, from my perspective, I'm not a competitive player or anything like that. From my perspective, this is just which ones do I enjoy playing the most. Now, this is a top game for me. I really love this game a lot. I love exploring the different factions. So even the one that I have rated the lowest is still one that I love quite a bit, right? I still really enjoy playing all these different factions, but if I look at them and I have to rank them from order of the one that I would want to least play and the one that I would want to most play, this is the order that I put it in. So again, it is just totally personal opinion on my gameplay style, I guess, and which ones I enjoy the most. So let's get to the table. We're going to check this out. Okay, the first thing that you're going to notice is I have this player mat out here, and I use this just so that it can kind of help me show off some of the cards and then show off these different factions boards. I was given this a couple of these play mats to be able to play with. I love these, and so I wanted to highlight it in the video. These should still be available from the store if you want to check that out from the Portal web store. I really highly recommend it. I do want to point out one thing. When you're looking at this, it's really bright, shows up a little bright on the camera. You might look at this and think, wow, that's way too busy for like a game where you want to be able to read and easily tell what all the different cards do. Is that going to get in the way? In my experience, no, it's not gotten in the way. It really enhances it, makes it easier to pick up your cards, makes it easier, I think, to put your deal cards in the deal slot, because sometimes that can be difficult. So my cards are sleeved. I use this mat. I love it quite a bit, so I wanted to highlight that in the video. So I'm going to be showing some of the cards out here. And if you've noticed, I've already got one of the factions out there, and this is my number 7, which is my, again, least favorite to play, but I still really, I really struggle with this list. But I think Japanese is still fun. It's just one that, and I'll point out why, it tends to be kind of my least favorite to play. So just to kind of highlight some of the things from the Japanese faction, first off, you'll see the production here. They're going to hold back some food. That is going to be, they're going to be able to store as many any number of food at the end of the round, and they have to discard everything else, which means, as you can guess, the Japanese faction is going to be making a lot of deals with that food that they have. So you'll see the Japanese faction making a lot of deals. Now, the biggest thing for this Japanese faction is that they can be raised. Their faction cards that are going to be over here will be able to be raised by other players, and so that is, I'll go ahead and say it, that is why it makes it the thing that is my least favorite. Not because I don't think it's fun or effective. I think this is, you can score a lot of points with the Japanese faction. It's just that I tend to not like to be attacked. Like in the game, your common buildings are always, up for being raised. Your empire ones are the ones, your faction ones are the ones that are not. And I kind of like that. I like the safety net of knowing I've got some cards that if I put out, no one's going to be able to touch those. Well, the Japanese really changes that. Now, you can take workers and place them on those cards to make them samurai, which act as a defensive token. So it takes an additional raise token to be able to raise those. But it still could happen, and you have to spend your workers to be able to do that. And I would rather use my workers for other things like taking different actions or gaining the action cards or gaining resources here at the bottom. So that's really it for me. But just to kind of highlight some of these cards and show what they do, each time you make a deal, you're going to gain a point. So, again, you're going to be making a lot of deals with this faction. You're actually even going to, let me see if I can find this one that I took out. You can spend one food, choose an enemy faction, and make a deal with it. And you're going to draw a card from the Japanese deck. You're going to place it face down under the enemy to indicate that is a deal that you have made, which is really unique. I think that's a cool thing. Again, options to be able to produce food, and then making a deal to produce food. And then you can, during production, get 1 point for each samurai in your empire, which is helpful. Again, if you're going to be using this faction, you need to take advantage of those samurais to protect your faction cards, you might as well get a point for those that you're going to get out. I think what that also does is put a bigger target on some of those faction cards for other people to kind of come through and raise those. And then this one, at any time during your turn, you can place any number of your cards from your hand under the gate to gain a point for each card. And then at the end of the game, you're going to get 2 points if there's 3 or more cards under the gate. So that's another unique card that plays out. Sorry if there's a lot of bumping with the sound on this as I'm kind of moving these cards around. But anyway, that is number 7, the Japanese faction. My number 6, again, one that I enjoy playing, and this one actually could have been number 7. Japanese and this one are kind of similar in my love to play them, I guess. But with the Aztecs, this is my number 6, the Aztecs. Their big thing is you're going to be taking these different prey actions, and I'll throw out some of these cards here. I'm throwing them on the common side. Don't worry, that's not. I know that's not where they go. I'm just throwing them out here because it makes it easier for me to put them out there. But this card says that each time you pray, you're going to draw one more card. Now, when you pray, let me read one of these other ones. This one. So spend 1 worker to announce a color, brown, gray, or red, and you're going to pray 5 times. That means you're going to draw 5 cards from the common deck, and you're going to gain 1 matching resource for each card of that color. So if I called gray and I drew 2 cards, 2 out of those 5 were gray, I'm going to get 2 stone for those, and you can activate this one twice. Now, again, if you have this card, this feature that allows you to draw another card, I'd be able to draw 6 cards. You're also going to, and you actually produce this, you're going to be able to produce, every round you'll have one that's a multicolor one, but you'll be able to produce these blessing tokens, and those are going to match up with the different colors that are going to be on these cards. And what that looks like is you have one, again, that is a red, gray, and brown color. You're going to have that every round. It's not going to go away. When you take the prey action, you have 2 options. One, I can go ahead and say, look, I've got 2 gray tokens, the one that I started with and another gray one that I produced later on. And you can only have 1 of each color. That wild one is the exception. So I could say, well, I already have 2 gray ones. I need stone. Let me just go ahead and take those 2 stone, and I'm guaranteed to get those. But the push your luck element is if a gray card is drawn, then you can then add those tokens to that. So you might, let's say you drew 1 gray token, then you have those 2. You might actually gain 3 stone instead of just having those 2. But it's a little bit of push your luck and what you want to do there. And I think that's really interesting. And then this one is spend a worker and a food. You can pray 1, and then you're going to gain 2 points and the matching good. So you're just going to gain 2 points, and then you're going to gain the matching good that is on that card, but you can't use the token on that one specifically. You can't use your blessing token for that. So the big reason why this one is not my favorite is the randomness of it. I think you can actually get a lot of points with this faction if things go your way. You can get a lot of resources. It's just again, it's a random thing that can happen if I'm able to get these resources from that, taking that prey action. But you can get a lot of resources by doing that. Again, that only costs you 1 worker. So in that case, if I was able to gain 3 stone from 1 worker, that's huge, right? That's really big. And so I think you can really, if the right things come out for the Aztecs, you can really do well and demolish people. But it's that randomness piece, and then the kind of the fiddliness with taking that prey action, having to draw those cards is the reason why it's not my favorite, but I still quite enjoy that. So that's my number 6, the Aztecs. Now on to my number 5, which is another one from the base game. And this is, let me slide this one off here. This is going to be the Romans. Again, the Romans are ones that I enjoy playing. Their big thing is they can, I didn't mention this, but the Aztecs, they get to store any number of stone. So the Romans are able to store any number of the raise tokens. So as you can imagine, you're going to be attacking people with the Romans, right? If you're able to build those up. Now you only produce 1 raise token. It's not like with your production, your natural production, that you're going to be able to attack a lot. But that is the strategy that you're going to want to take because you can hold back those raise tokens. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the Romans are a bit of a slower faction, meaning that it's going to take a little bit of time for you to build up your engine. Some of these can really ramp up, and I'll talk about those. Really, I've noticed that my top ones tend to be ones that really ramp up quicker, and the reason why I don't love the Romans as much is because they're a little bit slower. One thing you're going to notice is that all of the buildings are going to cost stone, so you're going to want to produce a lot of stone to be able to build these buildings for the Romans. But the Romans are all about the Romans. They're all about their faction cards and getting their specific faction cards out, because a lot of these, and 3 of these I think that I pulled out, is each time you build a gray building, this is with your feature, you're going to gain a point or a coin, and there's several of those cards in that faction, in this faction, that are if you build this certain type of building. So the Romans are all about getting buildings out and gaining points based on matching those colors and different things. This one is each time you build a Roman building, you're going to gain a coin or a point. Each time you build a black building, you're going to gain 2 points. And then this one is spending a worker and 3 stone to gain 4 points. And the reason why I put that one out there is because it kind of enhances the idea that Romans, you really want to build up a big stone supply, big stone production, because you can get your faction buildings out there, and you can also be able to get a lot of different points from those cards that allow you to get points from stone. So Romans, I still think it's fun. It's just it tends to be a slower play in the games that I've used them in. That's Romans number 4. Is that right? Number 5, excuse me, that was number 5, Romans. Number 4 is the Atlanteans. Now, the Atlanteans is an expansion faction, and with the Atlanteans, I think Atlanteans is probably going to fall on the lower end of a lot of people's list of ones that they really enjoy playing. And I get that, because the big thing for the Atlanteans is, if you know the game, you know that with the common buildings, at the end of the game, common buildings give you 1 point. The faction buildings are going to give you 2 points. With the Atlanteans, you will get 0 points from all of your faction buildings, which is a bummer. It just means your strategy with the Atlanteans is so different than, say, the Romans. Like it's totally different than the Romans in that aspect, because you want to be able to gain a lot of your faction buildings with the Romans. With the Atlanteans, you kind of do, but you have to recognize that that you're not going to gain points from those, and so you really need to protect your common buildings. And so you see a lot of different options for protecting these common buildings or enhancing these common buildings. So this is their feature. Their big feature on their board is that they can store any number of these tech tokens, and they're also going to produce a basic tech token. There's the advanced ones and the basic ones. The basic ones. Let's show this on here. So, production, you can get a production of a tech token, a basic tech, and a coin, which is really helpful. A lot of the deals have the basic tech tokens on there. And then you have cards like this one that says spend a basic tech to gain an advanced tech, and that may be activated twice. Now, let me talk about the difference. The basic tech is going to enhance the different cards that you have in your common cards. Okay, it's going to enhance those. So if it has it on there, it'll double your production. It'll give you the double bonus of your feature, and then with your action, it'll allow you to take it a different time. I probably said that a little bit wrong, but it enhances all of those common cards that you're going to have if you have a basic token on there. The advanced ones, if you have that on there, you're going to be able to there's 2 different types of advanced ones. One, you can put a defensive token on there, so again, protecting those buildings. You also, I didn't mention this, but you can you're going to produce 2 to 4 shields at each round, depending on how many players you have. But there's also a card that allows you to be able to produce shield tokens, and then there's a building bonus of that. So again, protecting these cards as best you can. You can have, remember, you can only have 1 of those shield tokens per card. That means that if you want to raise that, it's going to cost you an extra raise token. With the advanced shield token, tech token that you have on there, it's going to provide another shield for cards. So you can actually have 2 of those on there, which is helpful. You can't have 2 of the shield tech tokens on 1 card, but you can have a shield and then the shield tech token on there. So really helpful there. Or the other option that you can have is if you take the advanced one that gives you a point. So every time the card activates, whether that's from production or feature or an action, you're going to gain a point whenever that triggers. So that's the big thing for the Atlanteans. You really have to utilize these well in-game. Your faction cards in-game have to be utilized well. And then your common cards over here, you want to protect those so you don't lose the points, but also so that you don't just get obliterated with not getting any points from those. So there we go. That is the Atlanteans. Like this one quite a bit. I would say it's kind of in that same realm as the Aztecs in the fiddliness of it. There's a lot to kind of keep up with, and more so than the other factions, I believe. All right, that is number 4. Number 3 for me is the Barbarians. And with the Barbarians, they're going to produce a lot of workers. So you're going to see that right off the bat, they can store any number of workers that they want, and trust me, and you produce 5, which is a lot. 5 workers, you're going to be producing a lot anyway with your deals and with your production cards. You're going to end up with a card full of workers, and that is part of the reason why I really enjoy the Barbarians. So you're building up your workforce, and that workforce is going to attack. They're Barbarians. There's no way around it. And so you start to see when you get the feel of all these different factions, you start to see how they're going to interact with other ones. So if I'm playing the Japanese and I'm playing against the Barbarians, I'm going to like the Japanese even less, right? Because they're going to be attacked a lot from these Barbarians. Each time you raise, you're going to gain a victory point. So again, you're going to get bonuses for the more that you're going to attack. Spend 2 of your workers to raise 1 of your common buildings, which is interesting. Raising your own buildings out here is something that doesn't happen or can't happen, but they're Barbarians. They don't care. Spending 2 workers to gain 2 raise tokens. Again, lots of different ways to produce those raise tokens. And this one is to spend a worker and draw 2 cards. You're going to keep 1 and discard the other. So there's a lot of those cards that allow you to use your workers to take actions and to do different things on the board besides just using them to gain these different benefits at the bottom of the board. Now, they don't produce much else. They only produce 5 workers and 1 raise token. So you're going to want to build up your production in other ways. You might have a target on your back too, because you're going to be attacking other players so much. Other players are going to then attack you. So the Barbarians, the reason why I like them so much is because I really love just having a ton of workers, and you'll see why my number 1 faction is one that produces a lot as well. And you just produce a lot of workers, and you can do a lot of different things, and I like that. I think it's, contrast that to the Romans. The Romans might have a very quick turns, there might be players that are playing well beyond the Romans, especially in those first couple rounds. If the Romans are playing against the Barbarians are probably going to have extra actions that the Romans won't have in those first couple of rounds, and I like that. It's a speedier faction, and one that's easy to grok. Like it's probably the most basic, I would say, of all of the different factions. I don't know if it's the easiest to play with, but I think it's probably the easiest to play with, and it's easy to comprehend because, again, they are Barbarians. That is my number 3. My number 2 is the Amazon. So this is an expansion faction that, again, has some interesting rules. If you look at the base set, you've got the Japanese that are kind of wonky, but those other 3 base set ones are pretty standard. But then with the expansions, the extra rules they add really change the variety and how you play the game. With the Amazon, their big thing is one great thing is that they can store up to 3 workers, food, stone, or wood, which is really great. That's the only one that allows you to store a combination of those. So you're going to be able to keep the different items instead of having to just focus on one that you're going to produce. And then your production is fairly low, which is 3 workers, a raise token, and a shield. But one thing is interesting in this, you're going to see that you're going to produce a foundation. And you're going to see why that's so important for the Amazons to produce foundations. But how that works is you're going to draw a common card, place it face down as a foundation here, so that when you're building your faction cards, you'll be able to get those out based on those foundations. Because with the Amazons, they are going to be mostly gaining these one-time abilities with the buildings that they have. I don't think all the ones that I put out here are that. actually, I'm not quite sure why I put this one. Oh, this is a building bonus one. Yeah, so all of these ones are going to not give you an action, a feature, or a production. They're going to be a one-time bonus. So, for example, if I build this one, it's going to cost me a foundation and a stone. And the building bonus is 2 gold. So I'll just straight up get 2 gold, but there's no action there. So I don't want to hold on to this card whenever I am, right? I don't want to hold on to that card whenever I won't get any more benefit from that than those 2 gold that I have. So you really have to think, okay, I'm going to have to do something with this. I might as well use this as a foundation later on. But the way that this plays out a little bit different than other ones is that when you use those as the as the foundation, instead of just discarding those, or you're going to shuffle them back into your deck. And so this is one that you're going to be going through a lot of cards. You're going to be shuffling through your deck quite a bit, which is good because once that deck runs out, you don't have any more, right? You can't you can't pull any more cards from that because you don't just reshuffle it. But this one allows you to reshuffle those cards in there. But again, you're still going to be going through those quickly. I might, on my turn, let's say I would build this one. It's only going to cost a foundation, and then it is going to give me a building bonus of 3 wood. I might then use the wood to build this one, which is a building bonus. Remove 1 enemy foundation with, or a building without a color. So I would then maybe build this one, and this one doesn't use a foundation. But let's say it costs a couple wood and a foundation. Then I would do that and get rid of this card. So again, you're going to be rifling through these cards a little bit. Now, like the Aztecs, like the Atlanteans, the Atlanteans, this one can be fiddly, but I think it's cool the way that your combinations can happen. Like discarding the foundation to build this one, but then immediately I can discard that foundation to build another one. And the way those combos with the building bonus with this will allow me to build this one, but then I can use the foundation for this one to build another one. I like that. I like how it works. Now this one is going to be, there's going to be a lot going on. Your turns might be kind of hard to keep up with sometimes because of all the shuffling around of the different cards, but that is kind of the main thing for the Amazons, and I like it. I like that. You're also this one is your deal is a foundation. You're going to produce a foundation. So again, you're building a lot of your buildings, but they're not going to be your faction buildings, but they're not going to stay there for very long probably. So if you play this game a lot, you know what the last one is. My number 1 favorite faction to play, excuse me, in Imperial Settlers is the Egyptians, which is a base game faction. Why do I like playing the Egyptians so much? I think maybe the biggest reason, 2 reasons. 1 is you feel rich when you play with the Egyptians. And 2, the very first time I played this game was with the Egyptians, and it's when I really, really kind of fell in love with this game, and I've got a little bit of a soft spot for the Egyptians. But the Egyptians can store any number of gold, and they're going to produce a lot of gold. Like the Barbarians produce a lot of people, they're going to produce a lot of gold. You actually are even able to produce a gold right off the bat with your faction card. You naturally produce a gold, which is really nice, really nice. If you know this game, you know that gold is a wild resource. And so what are you going to be doing? I pull out 6 of these. So what are you going to be doing with the gold? You're going to be spending the gold a lot of times, building up a gold engine so that you can spend those for gold, and there's for points. And there's some good combinations in there, ways to get points. So let me kind of show you this. This one is let's see. You're going to spend 2 gold to gain 2 points. This would be an action card. 2 gold to gain 2 points, and you can activate that twice. Now, there is a card that says each time you gain at least 2 points, you're going to gain an additional point, which is really good. The Sphinx card is one that I try to get out there every time to be able to give myself some extra points. So again, if I spend 2 gold for this one, I'm going to get 3 points instead of just the main 2. And you can activate this one twice, and then opportunities to be able to get multiple cards out there like that. And those are protected cards, which is really helpful. Now you do have to give up making a deal to produce a gold to get this one out there, which is unfortunate because again, you're going to produce and you want to produce a lot of gold with the Egyptians. This one's going to allow you to spend a worker and a gold to gain 3 points. Again, spending spending gold, spending workers to gain victory points is kind of key, and producing a lot of gold is going to be a key. This one allows you to spend a food and you're going to gain a gold and a point, which is really good. And so if you have that card, you might want to be able to produce a lot of food. This one, spend 1 gold to choose one other of your action buildings, and you're going to discard goods spent to activate it, and then you can activate it again, and that can be this card can be activated twice. So as I mentioned, that combination of getting the points, multiple points, and then gaining that bonus point from the Sphinx, but then being able to activate that multiple times beyond is really, really helpful. And then the last one, I really like this one a lot too, but each time an enemy spends 2 workers to gain a resource. So again, if you know this game, you know you can spend 2 resources to gain any of those resources, then or a card, then you're going to gain a worker from them. Like they would spend 2, and one of those is going to go to you, and also you're going to gain 2 people as your building bonus. If you can get this card, this Oasis card out early, that can be a great way to get a lot of workers that could then be able to use on some of these cards to be able to gain gold or gain victory points. I just love this one, and a lot of that is because I think this one's fairly easy to play too, but the combinations that you get make you feel really good because you can get a lot of gold, which none of the other factions allow you this much gold in my experience, unless you just get the right common cards. But this one just really, really ramps up a lot. I like this quite a bit. It's definitely not undefeatable. I don't think any of these are. I don't think any of these are really, in my experience, overpowered. It's just, again, this is the one I like to play the most because I feel rich, kind of like the Barbarians. So anyway, that is it for me, my 7 rankings. Let me know what you think. I want to know what some of your favorites are. I would imagine that probably some people would have the Aztecs rated higher than I do, and probably the Atlanteans rated lower than I do, and probably the Japanese rated higher than I do as well. That it's not their least favorite. I know a lot of people that Japanese is their favorite faction. So I would love to hear what your favorite factions are, and I want to do more of these videos too because I love these games, and I just love having conversations and playing this game and figuring out the different combinations that go along with it as well. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's at MeepleTown Games. Website is MeepleTownGames.com, where you can find all of our content, podcasts, some written reviews on there as well, along with all of our videos. And you can also reach out to us on our Board Game Geek Guild. That's guild number 3407. And until next time, thanks for coming down to MeepleTown.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at MeepleTown Games, and connect with us on the MeepleTown Guild, guild number 3407, at BoardGameGeek.com, and also subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And until next time, thanks for coming down to MeepleTown.